Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Quebec in Canada once again for the first time in what feels like a good little while. Now, we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys, however, seem to be quite a well-established and well-respected name within their local craft beer scene, and from what I've seen, they do quite a wide variety of different styles, which for me is always a very good sign when it comes to investigating new breweries. And I'm always curious about Canadian craft beer because for a long time it was very difficult for me to get, but thankfully in Hong Kong we are getting quite a good steady supply of it these days, and there's new breweries appearing all the time. But yeah, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that is quite popular at the moment. It's a style that this brewery are supposed to be pretty good at, and it's a little bit of a classic take, I guess we could say, on this style from what I've heard. I've heard good things about this one. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Canada. We're going to the province of Quebec, and we're going to go to the city of Montreal, and we're going to have a look then at my first beer from BreWskey, but I'm not sure if I should call these guys BreWskey. I'll need to check that for the video title. But regardless, this beer is called Onirisme, which translates into English as like, you know, dreaminess or something like that. It comes in at 9.5% ABV. It's a New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. I have to say, I do like the artwork on this one. But yeah, this is yet another beer that I picked up from the wonderful Angry Beer, who have shops in Mongkok and over in Causeway Bay here in Hong Kong, and they get a fairly good selection of Canadian stuff. But yeah, the BreWskey beers have only appeared very recently as of the time of filming. This is their first time here, end of June, start of July 2025 these guys appeared, but this one was one of maybe 6 or so, and it was just the one that kind of caught my eye, to be honest with you. I like the artwork on this one, but they've all got very cool artwork, I have to say. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Onirisme, New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA, 9.5% ABV from BreWskey in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll hopefully be able to do in the future from BreWskey. This is the very first time they're appearing on the channel, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Canadian playlist along with a number of other things, and that's being added to quite regularly, of course, because we do get a good selection of Canadian beer here in Hong Kong these days. And do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about BreWskey for the first time then. And I will apologise in advance for any bad French pronunciations in this one. Quebec, of course, is the French-speaking province of Canada, but yeah, it's been a very long time since I did my French classes at high school. But let's just do our best. So anyway, BreWskey, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Montreal in Quebec in Canada, and the company was founded back in 2015. But the 3 main people behind it are Karine Amiot, Guillaume Courreau, and along with their longtime friend Derek Robertson. But I should point out as well that Karine and Guillaume are a couple, they're married. But yeah, Derek is the main man behind the brewing, and he has a background as a process engineer, and apparently he used to design the brewing equipment for other breweries as well as, you know, home brewing a bit for himself. Karine spent a number of years in the hospitality sector, as did Guillaume, but his speciality was apparently spirits. But the 3 apparently met in hospitality circles within the city, and they used to travel together and visit well-known North American craft breweries. But the combination of these backgrounds led them to choose the name BreWskey for their business, basically combining the words brewing and whiskey, hence BreWskey. Also a brewery in Helsingborg in Skåne in Sweden, near where I lived, that uses the same name but different spelling. But yeah, they opened their first location, Pub BreWskey, in 2015 in the Old Port area of Old Montreal, and it became known for its beer and whiskey selection, with a number of taps dedicated to other local breweries. But during the early years, they were producing their beers under contract at BreWskey Brewery, with Derek designing the recipes. But fast forward to 2019, they opened a new location called BreWskey Taproom, just adjacent to Pub BreWskey, and this new facility brought all of their production in-house. So the new brewery was installed with a 14 hectolitre brew kit, and they started off with 3 14 hectolitre, 3 28 hectolitre fermentation vessels, and 2 14 hectolitre bright beer tanks. And they've also got a smaller 2 hectolitre pilot system in there as well, and smaller fermenters to produce experimental batches. So they've really kind of upped the variety of styles and things like that, and their recipe development over the last few years. But apparently they had to expand this facility in 2020 due to demand for cans, and they also have space for about 50 barrels as well for their heavier and mixed fermentation beers. So they're doing a very interesting barrel program these days from what I understand. But Guillaume is also involved in 2 other spaces nearby. This is L'Annex, which is a boutique bar and smokehouse, and there's also La Cave à Manger, which is a bakery along with a beer and wine pub, which is next to the original Pub BreWskey. So yeah, they've got their they're doing a lot of stuff in terms of food and drink in the city of Montreal, so I guess I need to go and visit some of these venues actually. But the brewery mascot, who you can see on the artwork here, apparently is simply known as the Professor, and yeah, you'll see different versions of him on the brewery's core beers, and I think pretty much all the artwork from what I saw. But as of June 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 848 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I mentioned to you earlier, they're doing a wide variety of different styles. From what I've seen, they've got West Coast IPAs, they've got Imperial Stouts, New England IPAs of course, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff available from these guys, and like I said earlier, they seem to be pretty well respected. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about BreWskey for the moment. Like I said, I'm not sure whether I should call these guys BreWskey or exactly what I should call them. I'll check that for naming the video a little bit later on, but yeah, BreWskey seems to be the main name that they go by. So yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. But yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So before we open this one up, I'll let you have a quick look at the artwork, because I have to say it is pretty damn impressive. I really like it, the kind of graffiti style actually. I think it's really quite nice. There was another brewery who had similar things to this, maybe like Creative Arts, had a few beers like that. They were from Ontario if I remember correctly. But yeah, gold top on the can here. This one is 473 millilitres, 1 North American pint. And as I said, the name of this beer is Onirisme, which translates into English as like, you know, dreaminess or imaginativeness or something like this, I guess. But yeah, 9.5% ABV, this one, New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA, Citra and Mosaic hops in this one, both American, both 14% alpha acid, classic hops. Citra is going to give you a lovely kind of big mango type character. In a New England IPA, it's also going to show a little bit of a lemon-limey note. Mosaic has that kind of slightly distinctive earthiness to it, and a nice kind of tangerine quality too. But yeah, on the back of the can here you can see the BreWskey brewery symbol, and I think the little thing at the top of the can there, that, if I'm remembering the shape of the Canadian map properly, is a little map of the province of Quebec. So maybe this is their way of kind of saying made in Quebec. So yeah, pretty cool actually. Really nice can art on this one. I have to say I'm pretty impressed with it. But yeah, I think the professor, the hot professor guy, is he's got some mushrooms and stuff growing out of him there. So yeah, pretty interesting. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. As I say, very curious about this one, and always keen to try new Canadian breweries. So let's do this. Yeah. See, it looks very nice. I think that'll do for the moment for us to have a little look at this one. We've got maybe about 75% of the beer out and into the glass at the moment. So yeah, anyway, as you can see, from what we've poured, we've got about a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head there. I wouldn't call that perfect white. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, and you can see it gets a little bit soapier the further up that you go. But yeah, it looks pretty nice. In terms of colour, I would describe this one as being akin to a sort of mango juice. I always like comparing the appearance of New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that really is just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts you put into the beer will affect your colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the IPA category. Nearly never, basically, apart from fruit IPAs. But yeah, appearance-wise, this one looks pretty much as you would expect from the style. If we shine the light through it, we can see it does have a good degree of haze to it. It's not the soupiest and gloopiest 9.5% triple IPA that I've come across. But yeah, remember the level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from beer to beer and brewery to brewery and so on. But yeah, good level of haze in this one when you consider that it's a New England triple. But yeah, it looks pretty much as you'd expect from the style. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, one or two bubbles breaking the surface there, and yeah, one or two sticking toward the side of the glass too. So yeah, I like the way this one goes together. Nothing surprising about it when you consider, or its appearance when you consider what style it is. So let's go on then and have a wee look at the aroma of this one. As I said earlier, very, very curious about this. Oh, right, okay. I'm going to say straight away, this one does have a little bit of a punchy aroma to it. That's pretty nice. Yeah. It's giving you everything you'd want from the style. It's got a good, quite pungent green component to it. Nice mix of fruity character, and there's that good bready backbone as well, actually. Now, when it comes to New England IPAs, for me, there are 6 different elements to think about when it comes to the malty and yeasty side of these beers. So there's the rye-leaning grainy side of things and the farmhousey yeasty character. Those 2 elements are a little bit more common in New England brewed New England IPAs because the style started off, of course, as a sort of farmhouse IPA. But as it's moved to other places and the style and the brewing has evolved, the focus is a little bit more on wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and also the sweeter side of things. So for me, the malty backbone in this beer actually has a nice balance to it. There's smooth oats in there, nice little bit of wheaty bitiness, and you've got just a little touch of sweetness to it as well. So I'm curious to see how that's going to transpire in the actual flavour of the beer. But yeah, the malty side of this one, I think is really quite nice. So yeah, let's just break that down. So the backbone of the beer, you've got a sort of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. There's wee hints of wood in there, wee bits of cracker. I definitely get a little bit of, I definitely get a little bit of like a wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one. And then on top of that, there's a lot of like fluffy and fresh white bread in there, which is nice, and you know, that's the barley malt side of it. The more that I smell of this one, the more wheat I'm getting, so you get a nice little bit of that wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose, but you've got that more dense wheaty white bready character in there for sure as well. And on top of that, you can get a little bit of oatiness. So yeah, I think this beer is pretty fresh actually. The oats are usually a good indicator of, or a fairly decent indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. Essentially, the creamier the oats smell and taste, the fresher your New England IPA is, the drier they are, the older it is. And does this one have a canned on date? I don't know if that is. I think that's best before. No, I think that is. I think that's a best before date rather than a canned on date. So it says 2026. But yeah. This one I think is pretty fresh, and pretty much as soon as the beer is brought in to Hong Kong by the importers, it's out there. on the shelves within like a week or something like that. So they're pretty quick at getting it out there. But this one, the OT character for me would indicate that this beer is pretty damn fresh. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of sweetness to this one as well, but it's not overpowering or anything. There's a little bit of that kind of Skittlesy type note that you would, yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of Skittlesy type note, which is what you would expect from some of the yeasty characters and some of the sugar that they put in these beers. But you've also got a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, just a little hint of McVitie's digestive biscuit in this one. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together, I think, is really nice in this one. The malty character in this beer, the more that I smell of it, the more wheat comes out, and the more I do get a little bit more of the Skittlesy type character and a wee bit of the kind of brown bready graininess in this one. So yeah, interesting stuff, that's for sure. I think we've said everything we need about the malty side of the beer. Let's have a wee quick look at the yeastiness then. So the yeastiness comes out in the back of the nose, and for me, it's actually quite white bready. Like, it smells like it's mostly sweet white bread, but just with a little bit of a kind of crackery character at its core. So yeah, there's a wee bit of that going on in this one, which again, I really quite like. So yeah, malty yeasty side of this one is quite interesting, but yeah, quite a wheaty leaning New England IPA, this one, just going by the aroma. And the interesting thing for me too is that this beer has a little bit of bitiness to its wheat, whereas I've often found that North American wheat is a little bit smoother than European wheat, which is more bitey in my opinion. But yeah, let's have a little look at the hoppy side of this beer then. So when it comes to brewing IPAs, there are three types of hoppings that you can do. Early edition hopping, which takes place within the first hour or so of the wort boil, that gives you the vast majority of your bitterness and a deeper, danker green component. You've got late edition hopping as well, which takes place within the last half hour or so of your wort boil. Little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma coming out of it, gives you a very bright green component. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma, and yeah, it gives you a very bright green component once again. West Coast IPAs tend to use all three types of hopping, which is why they're deeper, danker, and more oily and more bitter, whereas New England IPAs rely on late edition and dry hopping, which is why they're softer and more juicy. This one is quite interesting. I have a little feeling that this could turn out to be a slightly more bitter New England triple IPA, but at the same time, the more that I smell of this, the green component just kind of settles back a little bit. I think they're using mostly pellets in this one. Like, it might be a mixture of pellets and cryo, but I think there were pellet. I'm pretty sure they're using a bit of T90 pellet in this one, just because you can smell like the slight pungency of the floral capacity, the floral component in this one. So yeah, there's a lovely little bit of earthiness in there. That's from Mosaic. There's a wee bit of herbal character, nice floral aromaticity, and a little bit of grassiness in there. The green component in this one is exactly what you would expect. So let's round off our look at the aroma then with a wee quick look at the fruity side of the beer. So yeah, fruity side of things then. So I would say the fruity side of the beer is what you would expect if you know these hops. So I'm getting a mix of tropical fruit in this one. There's a little bit of peach in there. Lots of juicy mango, some softer passion fruit as well, maybe little hints of apricot and stuff like that. That's all the citra. And I'm getting a nice big sort of tangerine orange, as you'd expect from Mosaic, and maybe just a little hint of lime, which, you know, sometimes Mosaic can give you that, but that could also be from the citra in this one. But I think the more that I smell of it, the more it starts to, the Mosaic, the tangerine orange, starts to come out of this one. But yeah, I'm also getting that kind of Skittlesy type character from this beer too. Quite often with the New England triples and quadruples and things, they'll put a little bit of like brew, I forget the exact type of sugar they use, but they put a brew sugar in there just to take the alcohol content up a wee bit. So yeah, it's interesting. So I've got a feeling they've used a little bit of that in here. But as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we have a taste of this one and just see what it's all about. It smells great. So yeah, this is the Onirisme and 9.5% New England Hazy, Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA from BreWskey in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Let's do this and see what we have. Slàinte, skål, cheers, santé. Ooh, that's nice. I'm going to say this one, the malt base, the hoppy side of the beer for me kind of agrees. It sort of concurs with what I was expecting from the aroma. The malt base is quite different to what I was expecting. My first impression of this beer on taste, it's a very smooth and very almost kind of creamy New England IPA. I was expecting something a little bit more kind of bitey and wheaty, but yeah, this one's a lot more oaty, which is interesting. So, you know, I could think about that. As I say, you know, North American oats for me are a little bit kind of more porridgey and dry than European oats, and they're, you know, the European oats are very, very creamy. And again, you've got the thing with wheat as well. In the US, as I described earlier, it can be a little bit different. But yeah, this is a very smooth and kind of creamy New England IPA. It does give you a wee bit of dryness into the aftertaste, right enough. Green component's very smooth as well, and you've got a lovely fruitiness to it. This beer is giving you everything you want from the style. It's just, as I say, the flavours come out a bit differently in comparison to what I was expecting from the aroma. But no complaints, it's a good beer. That's always the main focus. It should be whether the beer is good or not. Yeah, one other thing I would say is that 9.5% ABV is, for me, I would always say that the triple IPAs are 10 to 11.9, so this one's just under, but you know, at 9.5% I think you can get away with that. That's me absolutely nitpicking. But yeah, main thing, this is a very, very nice beer. It's a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think this is good. If this one's anything to go by, these guys are very solid when it comes to their New England. So I need to try a few different styles from them. I saw they had some West Coasters as well. Yeah, that is nice. Let's just break the beer down then and describe the flavour for you a bit more in depth, as we always do. Middle third of your palate then. The backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of woodiness coming out of it. There's some Jacob's cream cracker in there as well, sitting on top of that. Then you've got a very slight layer of a kind of wholemeal brown bready character there. Those flavours give you a little bit of dryness into the aftertaste, but I think they're kind of pushed aside by other things that are going on in this beer. But yeah, on top of all of that, you start to get the white bready characteristics out of this one, and then it shows you a nice mix of kind of smoothness and sweetness there. So yeah, the next layer up from the wholemeal brown bread is the fluffy fresh white bread from the barley malt in there. That layer shows you a little bit of dryness, but it's also got a little touch of sweetness to it, which I quite like, I have to say. So yeah, on top of that barley malt white bready layer, you get the more dense wheaty white bready character coming out of this one. And I think the more that you drink of it, the more the wheat does kind of come to the fore in terms of the flavour. And do remember that sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So the wheaty, within that wheaty layer, you can feel the smoothness a little bit further forward and just a little bit of bitiness a wee touch further back. But yeah, on top of that layer, you can feel the oaty side of things. Although maybe down the middle line of your palate, you're getting the more creamy side of the oats. Then as you move out toward the edges of your palate, it does show you a little bit of dryness. But that could also be some of the wheaty bitiness pushing its way through. But kind of at the edge of where the oats are dry, you get a little bit of the kind of Skittles type flavour coming out of this one, which, yeah, it does kind of linger there into the aftertaste and give you a wee bit of sweetness. But in the dead centre of your palate, you'll feel just a little circle there, and that's where the boozy part of the beer is coming out. So let's just look at that. So yeah, in the dead centre of your palate there, you've got a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of flavour, and yeah, the Skittlesy notes that I was talking about, they really come out there as well, just kind of surrounding that. So yeah, you've got a very layered, approach in this one, or a very layered flavour, I should say, with this beer. But it works for it, and as I say, the further into the aftertaste you go, the oats come out a wee bit more, the wheaty bitiness and the back of the palate comes out, and yeah, you've got that nice bready note there. So I think the more you drink of this, the more balanced the flavour feels. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of the palate. Let's go to the back third of your palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, a wee bit of the wholemeal brown bread in the base, the fluffy white bready barley malt in the middle, then the more dense wheaty white bready character on the top from the wheat, and there's a little bit of bitiness there. But yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the white bready bread crust in there, which feels a little bit drier. There's the cracker above that, the brown bready layers next, which feels a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, and also just that little touch drier. The white bready layer above that is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, and also a wee bit drier. Then yeah, you've got the more dense wheaty white bready character in there as well, which just feels a little bit more, yeah, it's got a little bit more bite to it, and that does linger into the aftertaste too. But above everything else on that back third of your palate, you've got a really nice, yeah, you've got a really nice kind of yeasty character coming out of the beer. So yeah. So yeah, the yeasty side of things for me in this one, at its core, I think the yeasty character has just a little bit of a kind of sweeter wholemeal brown bread, then surrounding it, it's like a little bit of a sweeter white bread, and then yeah, the very edge of the yeasty character in this beer is more of a, yeah, it's more of a kind of bread crusty type note that comes out of it. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this beer, I think, is really, really nice. And yeah, it gets the yeasty side of things kind of lingers there into the aftertaste and just gives the beer a wee bit of grainy dryness, which is interesting too. But yeah, definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of squashes down and compresses together, which I think is really nice. So yeah, I like that with this one. Let's focus on the green component of this one then. So yeah, on the hoppy side of the beer, back corners of the palate, you do have a little bit of earthiness with this one. That's going to come from the mosaic. As you move further forward from that, there's a wee tiny hint of pine resin in there. But yeah, as you reach the front corners of your palate, you've got more of a kind of floral, aromatic sort of thing coming out of this one, and it's just got a little touch of spiciness too. So yeah, lovely little bit of floral aromatic spice coming out of this beer. But yeah, round the front curve of the tongue, the beer's got a little bit of a lighter, more, yeah, it's got a little bit of a lighter and more kind of grassy sort of note to it. It gives you just a wee touch of zestiness there. But yeah, the green component in this one, it feels like there might be a mix of pellets in there, and that's I think the piney resin's that. But you do have a degree of smoothness to the green component too, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of cryo in there, especially when you've got Citron Mosaic, because I think both hops have had the cryo treatment. If I'm not mistaken, they're quite widely available in cryo form. But yeah, green component is what you'd expect, and this beer does have a little touch of bitterness to balance out all the sweetness in the malt base. But yeah, let's go to the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things to round off the flavour section of the video. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your tongue, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, the fluffy white bready barley malt there in the middle of your tongue. then a wee bit of the wheaty bitiness on top. But yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, you've got the white bready bread crust, the cracker, the wholemeal brown bread, the white bread, the kind of smoother side of the wheat, and a wee bit of the oats just kind of creeping forward there. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at that fruity side of things then. So yeah, fruity side of the beer for me, I would say it's exactly kind of what you'd expect of these two hops. At the back of that front third of your palate, you do actually get a little bit of the grapefruity character that Citra can sometimes give you. So Citra's showing its more grapefruity side. If you move forward from that a little bit, you've got a kind of layered fruity character. So you've got a little bit of peachy sharpness on top, juicy mango underneath, the softer passion fruit in the base, and then yeah, as you move further forward, you've got a little touch of apricot, a little bit of dried apricot in the middle of your palate there, and maybe just a little bit of pineapple sitting on top of that. So yeah, grapefruit, peach, mango, passion fruit, apricot, pineapple. I think that describes the back half of the front third of your palate quite nicely. When you move into the front half of the front third of your palate, it's all about the mosaic, and there's a wee bit of the lemony limey character from the Citra just behind the front tip of your tongue. But yeah, that front half of the front third of your palate is all about the tangerine oranges of the mosaic. So yeah, fruity side of this one is yeah, really pretty nice. Yeah, and the more that you drink of this one, the more bitterness you get out of it. So yeah, I'd be curious to see the brew sheet of this one, and just to see exactly what they've done with the hop in here. But yeah, as you let this one linger into the aftertaste, you're certainly getting more bitterness out of it. So yeah, quite an interesting take on the New England IPA from that regard. But I think we've said everything we need to about the flavour of this one. So yeah, let's just round off the review, the wee look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer is kind of like top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation is pretty smooth. It's got a bit of a silky mouthfeel to it in a way. The IBU in this one, as I say, it kind of builds into the aftertaste. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like 60 or 70 IBUs, which balances out the malt base quite nicely. But yeah, the malty side of the beer is a bit grainy underneath, smoother in the middle, and there's a wee bit of creaminess and slight sweetness on top there. But say this beer is not overly sweet, in all honesty, and the fruity side of it is really quite nice as well. So yeah, you've got a mix of citrusy character in there, softer tropical notes, and yeah, it kind of does everything you'd expect of Citra and Mosaic in that fruity regard. But yeah, definitely a more bitter New England Triple IPA, this one, and a wee bit more wheaty and oaty leaning into the aftertaste with just a little bit of sweetness. So yeah, I think we can say BreWskey have done a really nice job of this one, and you know, they're doing something. They're taking they're sort of going into a slightly different part of the New England IPA spectrum in comparison with a lot of the other ones that I've had in recent times. So thumbs up to them for that. I want a bit of variety when I'm reviewing lots of this style. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, really interesting beer, this one. The Onirisme, a New England Imperial Triple Hazy, or New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA from BreWskey in Montreal in Quebec in Canada. Really smooth and creamy when you first take it in. Then into the aftertaste, you get more wheatiness and more kind of bitiness out of it. A really interesting one, this, and I've really enjoyed it. So it makes me curious about trying some of their other beers. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that with this one. A slightly more bitter take, or well, quite a well-rounded New England IPA. It shows you a lot of different things. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from BreWskey as well. And we will see about returning to these guys again at some point in the very near future, because I'm sure their beers will come back to Hong Kong at some stage. It'd be nice to try a West Coast IPA and something from the darker end of the spectrum from these guys going forward, I guess. But yeah, check out my social media, check out their social media, give me some other Canadian brewery recommendations in the comments section below too, and I will catch you guys in another review very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, santé.